The giants of the digital platforms are the real winners of this crisis, said Paolo Gentiloni, a member of the European Union Commission, in an interview with CNBC. Digitalization has accelerated through COVID-19. As people's online activities increase due to the lockdown, online services have raised their impact on our lives. Therefore, it's essential to understand digital trade in terms of economy, society, and culture. Digitalization extends the scale of trade to data and increases scope and speed, providing customers with new products and services such as OTT platforms. With the development of digital trade, our society has gained access to more content, leading to both the universality and diversity of culture. However, it can also be a factor of tension between countries. In this video, we're going to assess the current taxation of digital content trade and suggest prospects of creating a multilateral trade agreement in digital taxation and OTT services within the internet value chain. First, we will explain that the digital trade and flow of contents across national borders is related to cultural integration. Second, through the case studies in Indonesia and South Korea, we would analyze the differences in digital taxation in developed and developing countries. Lastly, we would give prospects of creating a multilateral digital trade agreement and insights on its potential impact to narrow the cultural, economic, and technological gap. Let's first look at the relationship between OTT services and culture. While one side argues that OTT services guarantee cultural diversity by promoting exchanges between individuals from different cultural backgrounds, others say that they cause cultural universalization. They believe that the advanced countries, equipped with powerful means of supply, unilaterally pour out their cultural products in large quantities, facilitating the uniformization of culture across countries. While it is clear that OTT services positively affect people's cultural understanding, there are also concerns such as the potential damage caused by the spread of unregulated OTT services and worsening inequality in culture between developed and developing countries. Therefore, we should also take an economic perspective and analyze competitiveness and market share of the digital market trade. In that sense, digital tax is the most closely related economic factor to OTT services. The reason why this digital tax is important for cultural diversity is because digital taxation can help ensure a fair share to platforms which have allowed for the global distribution and consumption of contents through tax revenues. This can level the playing field by generating revenue that can be reinvested in supporting and promoting local cultural industries such as publishing, music, film, and broadcasting, consequently facilitating cultural integration and diversity. In the end, cooperation at the international level is required for better understanding of culture in the digital generation. However, this is extremely hard because each country has different positions on digital taxes. From now on, we will introduce the case studies of Indonesia and Korea respectively as examples of developing and developed countries. Indonesia has undergone a major transition to the digital sector due to COVID-19, and digital trade is promoting local firms to leverage digital technologies across every sector of the economy. Indonesia's internet use rate in 2022 was 53.7% and ranks 125th in the world. Indonesia's internet penetration rate of 77.02% in 2022 also means that a considerable amount of its citizens still do not enjoy internet services. And in the discussion on digital taxation, Indonesia as a developing country shows conflict with developed countries. Developing countries, including Indonesia, insist on abolishing the moratorium against tariff-free digital trade, as the termination of tariffs will lead to huge financial losses and the exposure of domestic content industry to global competition without any state protection. Indonesia, as a response to this concern, introduced digital taxes and designated OTT platforms like Netflix and TikTok to pay tax. With this Indonesian government's decree, the companies that export goods or services through the internet without establishing a workplace in Indonesia have provided the basis for paying VAT like other general companies. As such, the Indonesian government is expected to continue to expand digital taxes to preserve the government's budget and to create fair competition. According to a 2021 survey by the Trade Desk in Kantar, Korean content accounted for 57% of the total content watched by Indonesian viewers through OTT. In particular, in the case of Netflix, 8 out of the top 10 daily contents are Korean dramas as of 2022, which shows that Indonesians have a great preference for Korean content. Still, Amtech Group's Video, a local OTT platform in Indonesia, has the largest market share in Indonesia, securing 3.5 million viewers, which is 15% of whole OTT users. With lots of original content being released, it shows how cultural diversity can still be maintained in the presence of digital taxation. However, with Indonesian viewers favoring Korean content, it is hard to say that the contents are culturally authentic to Indonesians. Next, we would like to go over the case of South Korea to assess its digital taxation strategies and suggest prospects and visions to follow for revitalizing digital trade. First of all, how developed is South Korea in terms of digital trade? With the internet penetration rate reaching 97.6% in 2022, South Korea stands at the forefront of digital trade growth with rapidly expanding e-commerce. From 2005 to 2018, the digital services sector showed 8.8% growth, expanding its percentage out of the total services sector by 22%. This shows how South Korea is and will continue to expand the trade realm across borders. South Korea is more closely associated with digital trade, achieving the title of content's powerhouse in recent years. Its consecutive success in accumulating viewership on OTT platforms, most notably Netflix, can be demonstrated with high-gross hits like Squid Game, The Glory, Kingdom, and The Extraordinary Attorney Woo. If you look at the current growth of South Korea in the digital trade sector, compared to the whole industry export rate of 0.5%, the content's export growth rate marked 18.7% in the last 5 years. This proves how digital contents have become a very strong commodity of export for Korea. Next, based on indicators in the digital trade sector, we will explore the possible policy objectives for Korea. As of 2021, the total content exports exceeded $12.4 billion, which brought forth a K-cultural syndrome. However, despite its promising vision on content export, Korea provides a very low production tax credit compared to developed countries. Added to the high-risk characteristics of the content industry that makes it hard to bring investments, the industry is currently short of capital. However, we do see the shift in policies to respond to such needs. For example, compared to Moon's administration's YouTube tax, the Yoon administration has supported the tax cuts for local OTT platforms for higher competency in the global market. Furthermore, we would like to suggest policies for improvement. First, in the domestic sector, we need higher tax cuts. Compared to other Western countries which support the OTT growth with tax credits ranging from 25 to 35% of production costs, Korea is competing with a tax credit rate of up to 10%. At the same time, we require a two-track policy to support both the representative large companies and the small and medium-sized production companies. While the viability and effectiveness of these policies remain to be debated, the real controversy lies in the international sector, around the moratorium, which is to not tariff the imported digital contents. Though not mutually agreed upon, when brought into force globally, this can increase consumer welfare and overall productivity due to the reduction in transportation costs. At the same time, if we veto the moratorium and start to tax the digital contents, the administrative expenses to commercialize technology to track and tax digital content transactions makes it customs revenues, resulting in a deficit. In one way or another, countries with high digital trade rates find the moratorium much more profitable. Besides the economic benefits, there are also non-economic benefits, most notably cultural diversity. Squid Game is a prime example of a culture being shared and integrated globally. Along with the show's intense storyline and unique concept, traditional Korean culture from the term ganbu to sweets like dalgona gained a huge popularity among international audiences. Viewers from diverse backgrounds align themselves to South Korean storytelling, social aspects, and production styles, contributing to a broader appreciation and understanding of South Korean culture. Despite these gains, both economic and cultural, developed and developing countries all have different stances on the opening up of digital content transactions. For developed countries, they lead digital development through heavy investments and proclaim moratoriums as they're willing to get rid of trade uncertainty. And for developing countries, they favor digital protectionist policy as the majority of states' financial income comes from import tariffs and their domestic industries are not ready to be exposed to global competition. At the same time, even within the same stage of development and trade openness, each country has a different position in digital taxation and tariffs. For example, the EU and the United States have different definitions in electronic transmission, hindering a mutual consensus in drafting the multilateral agreement. And while China agrees on moratorium extension and is only against perpetuation, Indonesia opposes moratorium itself. As can be seen, because of the vastly different positions of each country, it is extremely hard to set multilateral digital trade and taxation policies for all. Lastly, we would like to wrap up our video by proposing the prospects on digital trade taxation based on our interview with Professor Lee. While we were conducting research, we came across the website of International Digital Trade Research Lab, and when we contacted the head of the lab, Professor Lee in Busan National University, we thankfully got a reply and could share a short conversation. In the absence of fixed physical business headquarters where transactions occur, we first need to establish significant digital presence to create clear parameters. However, as of now, due to vastly different stances of countries, it will be hard to bring about global multilateral agreement in the short term. Also, there is a concern that taking the digital contents can yield different accessibility to certain knowledge or information and can create a imbalanced perspective and cultural cleavage. We should nevertheless strive to open negotiations to reduce the gap in both the stances and technological and economic gap between countries. This is what we prepared. That was the reference list, and thank you for your attention.